One thing we want to talk about, Eagles-wise, as we have sort of the eye on what could be coming down the pike here, and knowing some of the guys on the team that you know well, Josh, some guys you have written about extensively. One of them, as we had in the tease for the episode, is DeVonta Smith. You went down to Florida with him last year. You have, I think, talked to him a good bit. You have a good understanding of sort of how he views his future and his place on the team. This is the offseason when the Eagles can sign him to a long-term extension. I'm of the opinion that the Eagles would like to do that as soon as possible. They don't want to let him go anywhere. What do you sort of expect on the DeVonta Smith Eagles front?
Yeah, Bo, I think it just feels inevitable at this point. It's not really a question if, but when.
Okay.
When it comes to DeVonta, and obviously they have the option to exercise that 5th-year option, I believe the beginning of May. But when it comes to DeVonta, we know how he loves his homegrown products. He's been a smashing hit.
Yep.
And Zach, I know you love trivia. There were 10 receivers taken in the first 2 rounds of the 2021 draft. Are you able to recall at least the 5 that were taken in the first round?
Yes, I can do that.
Spin it off.
Wow.
Okay, so Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, DeVonta Smith, Rashad Bateman, and then where?
That's 4. One more. Had a key play in last year's Super Bowl.
Yeah, and Kadarius Toney.
Yeah,
and then in the net, yep. And then,
you're gonna do the second round as well?
No, I'll pass. I mean, I sometimes conflate the 2021 draft with the 2020 draft because the Eagles needed receivers both years.
Yes.
So yeah, I sometimes put those two together, but I did pretty well.
Michael Pittman.
Yep.
Right?
Elijah Moore,
Okay.
Rondale Moore, Dwayne Eskridge, Tutu Atwell, and Terrence Marshall Jr.
Okay, yeah.
So of those 10, who leads leads that group in most games played?
Most games played. DeVonta's
Games
only
played.
missed one game.
DeVonta. So DeVonta's played 50 games. Most games played in that draft class. The 3rd most catches, the 3rd most yards, the 2nd most touchdowns at 19. And
I'm actually surprised he's only 3rd in catches. I get that he's behind Waddle, but who's ahead of him in catches? Is it Waddle?
Waddle and Jamar.
Okay.
So that's actually what I was going to transition to, is that I think there have been many late nights or whatever it may be. We're in the elevator, leaving locker room, going upstairs to the press box in whatever city it may have been, and we've had plenty of discussions about how he could have been targeted even more. And obviously, this is with playing in an offense with A.J. Brown the past 2 seasons. We can, discuss even further the ins and outs of the offense, the lack of motion, and I think there's plenty more for DeVonta to achieve. And I think Howie sees that, and not just that. I think one thing I also wanted to point out is you guys have seen this plenty, especially being in this city. But star wide receivers in the NFL,
Yes.
Sure, they're some of the most talented human beings in the world, but they usually come with some frills, some drama, some star personalities.
Yeah.
In our interactions with DeVonta, I don't think I think just speaking in general, he's a pretty good guy to deal with, and he doesn't come up with any of that off the field trouble or drama is what I would put it. And I think Howie has to strike.
Well, I also think that Howie, Zach, has lived through enough of an experience with the Eagles when they didn't have good receivers, and how much of a slog it was to do anything on offense, that he has no interest in letting somebody like DeVonta Smith go.
Yeah, and to that point, we imagine that there's a decision here on DeVonta's point from DeVonta's side as well, because on 25 teams in the NFL, DeVonta is like the no doubt top receiver, and you can make an argument that he's like the top receiver on the Eagles, right? But it's a 1-on-1A, like they say. AJ Brown is he's a special player, Hall of Fame trajectory. Physically just different, right? And they complement each other well. But AJ has this 4-year, $100 million contract that was signed 2 years ago. The market keeps going up, right? DeVonta needs to do what's best for DeVonta when it comes to the contract. And there are ways to pay two wide receivers. What I'm curious about is, do you think that it matters to either of them how much the other guy makes. And whether you're making more than AJ or AJ's making more than DeVonta, because they're competitive guys who are the top in their industry.
That's a great question. And I'll put it out there that once they do sign DeVonta, there's a very bold prediction. There might be some upset chatters, but I think once they sign DeVonta to that extension, I think AJ is an Eagle for less than a season, for less than a full year.
Interesting.
After he signs that extension. A very bold prediction.
Yeah.
But
And why do you say that?
Just because the way the roster is constructed right now. I mean, we obviously saw the way that Jalen's deal was structured in a way to be flexible in terms of spreading money around in future years.
Yeah.
But imagine you think you'd have two players taking up what, like 25, 30% of
It's hard
the
to
money?
do, especially knowing how much they want to pay guys on the defensive line. You can't really have like 4 or 5 guys making that much money, but
You've got to pay Landon.
and I think that might happen this offseason too.
But when you have blue chip players, you don't like to see them go out the door. And it's hard to find an AJ Brown replacement, right? Like, we've talked about it on the show that if they had to pick one, who would they go with? And it's hard to say because, I mean, I don't want to say it's like Howie picking between his children, but like they are two special players, and you want to keep them both. There are cap considerations. I personally think that if you can keep both of them happy, which is in addition to the cap part of it, but if you can keep both of them happy, pay both receivers and go thinner elsewhere. Because I think you win in the league with star power, and then you get by elsewhere.
Close your eyes, and the question is, only one of the two of them is going to be on the team in 2 years. Which one is it? And what's your answer?
I mean, I would say AJ, but I mean,
AJ is on the team.
Yeah, but as Josh referenced, like receivers can be a little volatile, right?
Yeah, I feel pretty confident.
AJ's already been traded once, but to me, I just think AJ's so rare, and I would do everything to keep a guy like AJ Brown. So
I feel pretty confident that if only one of them is here in 2 years, it's DeVonta.
I'm with Bo.
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles do value their homegrown guys. I think DeVonta, I don't want to say AJ comes with headaches, but like we said, AJ's been traded once before. Right? So there has been a team that's traded that's decided. Now, it did not work out well for them. And maybe there's a lesson in that for the Eagles. But yeah, DeVonta would seem to be the one who fits the Eagles more long-term because he's a homegrown guy. And if they give him that extension, like Josh mentioned, you're not playing catch-up with another deal, right? That's the market-setting deal. I just think AJ is so special that it's hard for me to say otherwise.
We all silly like the mayor.